So we're going to discuss the hangar leases and using complete information to find a win-win solution for the current situation that we find ourselves in out of the airport. First of all, I'd like to thank a few people, including Mayor McDonald, the City Council, airport advisory members who are here, and also the hangar owners and other interested parties. And just real quickly, by a show of hands, could everybody show of hands who's here for hangar owners? So thank you. I just have one request. Up here, kind of look pretty and talk fast, and just request that you please hold your questions to the end, because we do have a limited time. So I want to first start out by talking about the problem, a little bit of history. Without a comprehensive and equitable policy that gives the city guidance as to how to deal with the lease issues, changing hangarship, owner capital improvements, those kind of things, leases have been dealt with on an individual and arbitrary basis. In 2007, the city and hangar owners, or the city, contracted Airport Business Solutions, and it's an issue that has been wrestled with ever since, and still no real clear path. Again, Airport Business Solutions in 2007 and Jet Aviation last year produced a lease and rates policy analysis, which has been problematic from the start, and we're going to detail some of that here. So the lease overview over at the airport, there's 67 privately owned hangars. They're all built on leased land in the city. It's really a collage of agreements for the leases. There's 31 hangar row reversionary leases, 5 commercial apron reversionary leases, of which I own one, 22 Daniel non-reversionary leases, 8 Daniel reversionary leases, plus the CAF museum. So as you can see, there's at least 5 different lease types, all with end of lease uncertainties that affect hangar sales, resales, and also assess tax values. Here are some of our concerns. First, I want to start off and kind of dispel any misunderstandings that there might be about the hangar owner positions. First of all, we do not oppose ground lease market rate fees that update for inflation, nor do we oppose real estate tax applied to hangar assessed values. We support the airport being a vibrant, self-sustaining, successful airport that is a source of pride in the community. We do disagree, however, with Aviation's analysis on how to best accomplish this. Discussion items, there are 5 issues that we want to talk about. The stakeholders, economics, Aviation's report document, comparable airports, and also competing ground lease analysis that differs significantly from the Aviation recommendation. First of all, the airport stakeholders. Obviously, the city has a fiduciary responsibility to protect the interests of all stakeholders, which includes the city, the citizens, businesses, and hangar owners. And we point that out because we recognize this isn't just about hangar owners. This is about all of us. And we feel like for one stakeholder to win, another one does not have to lose. A win-win situation is obviously preferable and desirable. We do believe that there are scenarios that are out there that are win-win scenarios. However, we don't feel that Aviation has explored those. So a fundamental question that we think needs to be asked is, what is the best policy to ensure a fair and equitable path for the airport's hangars and business owners while maintaining the airport's fiduciary responsibility to the city and the citizens? Economics of reversionary versus non-reversionary ground leases. There's a document that we've provided that kind of goes over that in more detail. But really, it comes down to kind of a fundamental question of what does the city want going forward? If reversionary leases lead to higher risk, higher liability, property ownership, and real estate management strategy that may or may not provide larger returns sometime in the future. Or with a non-reversionary lease, non-reversionary leases, you end up with lower risk, long-term, immediately increasing revenue for the city, that's assured now and in the future without the inherent liabilities of the there are, I'm not going to go into these in detail, obviously, because I can't even read them from here. But invite you guys to look through that.
Is this perhaps in what you gave us?
It is in what we provided, and we're going to provide handouts at the end.
Or is that just a summary of all of this?
It is a summary, and it is a specific slide that you will get at the end of the presentation. And invite you to look through that as the pros and cons of reversionary versus non-reversionary as we see them. Okay, we will provide that to you at the
I think you got it written in here, but not on a chart like that. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah. So we have some questions about due diligence. There's 40 comparable airports selected for the Grand Junction Regional Study when they went about this. Aviation, on the other hand, 10 comparable airports selected. 2 of those, the data wasn't used because in one case there was no data, and in the other case, in the case of Grand Junction, there was incorrect data, which we will detail here. There are comparable airports from both analysis, and with that, I'll turn the time over to Paul.
Sir, could you go back a slide because there was something on there about incorrect data?
Yeah. So.
No data, incorrect data. What are you meaning there?
In Haley, Idaho, there was no data available. They listed them as comparable airports, but there was no data available from Haley, Idaho. Paul can give you details on that. Again, we'd like to save the questions to the end just because we're short on time. The incorrect data will be detailed upcoming.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Mayor, and City Council members for allowing us to speak this evening. I'll cover the next 3 discussion points. First one is we want to talk about Aviation's rates and policy analysis document, and it was done last August. And unfortunately, in the memo that was put out to the council as part of the materials package for this thing, they referred to it as another document that was presented later in the fall. And that's not the one that we wanted to talk about, and that's not the one we included in the material. This is a single document. It was never revised like some of the other documents were. It serves as the foundation for all the studies and all the documents that follow this one. And we just want to show you a couple of things about it. First of all, I go into Table 1, which is their airports considered for comparison, or comparable airports, if you will. On the left side, it starts in Heber at the top, and it's followed by 10 airports. You might be able to read from there. I can go through it quickly, but South Valley Regional here in Utah, Provo Municipal, Briggs Reed in Idaho, Aspen Airport, Grand Junction Airport, Freeman Moreno, which services Sun Valley, Garfield County in Colorado, Montrose in Colorado, and Yampa Valley, and also Eagle County Regional, which services Vail Resort area. So we have those 10 comp airports. If you go into slide 2, and I'm sorry for the poor quality of this, but that was actually a poor quality in the document. And I have sent you, provide a copy of that, so you'll find out it's around page 3 or 4. If you start with, so what Barry talked about, if you go to this first line right down here, and where the red arrow is, I do have an arrow in your copy as well, maybe a black one. Go across there. That's the Sun Valley, which is Haley, Idaho Airport. As you can see, there's no documentation whatsoever. In fact, there was a caveat in the body of the report that said that they asked them for the data but never got it. And still they included in the report as a comparable airport without having provided short record. The second one up here is Grand Junction Airport, and it's important for a couple of big reasons. It's one I really want to talk about tonight. You go over here to the lease term, up here at the top, with 2 arrows going to go down. And Aviation's analysis and data that they turned out on this airport says that they have a 30-year lease comprised of an initial term of 20 years with one 10-year extension. And unfortunately, that is completely wrong. It was an old lease that they got that information for on February 12th of 2013, clearly 8 months before Aviation's analysis. they switched to a different lease. And I'm just going to show you real quickly. This is a Grand Junction Regional Airport press release about that. It was released on February 14th, about the February 12th. And instead of having you read that, it'll be in your handout that we'll give you at the end. And I'm just going to give you a summary.
Sir, wouldn't it be better to give it to us now so we can kind of mark it?
I'm ready to.
I need that handout.
It won't distract you. Go ahead and. And there's an index on the inside, and you'll see.
Rather not just try to
Okay,
find it all.
we're another 20 minutes, and we're really close in time, so if we need a few extra minutes for this, I hope you don't mind. We keep going real quick, few minutes. If you'll open up, you'll see an index to the left, and it'll show you both the Grand Junction press release, and I've also included in that same section the Grand Junction's leasing guidelines, which is an excellent document that everybody ought to read. And then it also has a copy of the actual ground lease that they're using now. But this was done, again, on February 12th of last year, improving. For whatever reason, JVation used the old data from the previous release 6 months after they had a new lease over there. Okay, so now I'm just going to give you the summary that we have. First of all, Grand Junction is a 50-year ground lease now. It's not 30 years anymore. And we have an initial term of 20 years in the lease, with 1 year, 10-year extension, and then adding 4 5-year extensions to come up with a total of 50 years. Now that seems terrific in itself for a hangar owner, but it goes beyond that. Then we go down here. What Grand Junction chose to do was also give the option to all existing hangar owners, all of them, to replace their old leases with a new 50-year lease using the start date from their old lease. For example, if I lived over there and I had a 30-year lease and I was 20 years into it, I'd have 10 years left in my lease. This would give me an extra 20, so I would, instead of having 10 years left, I would have 30 years left. And their leasing guidelines go over this incredibly detailed, why they decide this, how they decide it, and so forth and so on. But additionally, as the slide that Barry showed you previously, Grand Junction selected 40 comparable airports, 40, for the analysis that are listed at the bottom of the first 2 pages of the lease guidelines. And that contrasts a lot with JVation selections of 10 comparable airports, especially considering that one of those airports has no data and another has bad data, Grand Junction itself. So what we're talking about here in this slide, up here we have 40 comparable airports for Grand Junction, and down here we have 10 that JVation chose for Heber. And then you take one off for no data, it goes lower, and one off because of bad data. You're talking about 40 comparable airports for their analysis at Grand Junction, and here we used 8. Okay, so according to that, our next talking point is number 4 here is additional comparable airports. So our hangar owners have compiled a list of 10 additional comparable airports to balance JVation selections. And we did that by calling and talking and emailing and back and forth, and we had a lot of data. And you know what? It's really not that hard to do yourself. Of our 10 comparable airports, and I'll show you a slide that goes in a minute, of the 10 airports that we came up with, 3 had recent ground lease revisions in the past 3 years. Brand new leases, new studies, and these are a little more current than a lot of the other ones that either JVation used or we used. 4 of those airports that we came up with are reversionary leases, and 6 are non-reversionary. A fairly good balance compared to the 2 and 6 split over at JVation. 1 airport has a 50-year lease, that's Grand Junction obviously, and then another has 45-year terms. 3 have 40 years terms, and 2 more exceed 30 years. And the last item I really want to talk about a little bit, because 2 have changed their leases in the last 2 years from reversionary to non-reversionary. They had too many problems with reversionary leases, so they went over to non-reversionary.